Hello and welcome everyone. I am Daniel of Earth and this is the very first YouTube video I will be uploading. Today I will be showing you the new painting I am working on. It is a mountain scene with a lake and flowers in the foreground. The colors I am using today are titanium white, Mars black, primary blue, light blue violet, and prism violet. Those are up on the top left at this moment. You can see that I'm putting down the base layer here for my clouds. I've mixed a little tiny bit of that primary blue and Mars black with the titanium white. We don't want just straight white for these, because in real life, clouds are not just straight white. They have depth and details to them that we really want to bring out in our paintings. Here you can see me start to do a little bit of dry brushing. Dry brushing is when you really only have a small amount of paint on your brush and you just use that to brush lightly over the canvas to create light streaks like I am for the clouds in between our bigger fluffy clouds. Here I'm starting to add a little bit of depth to those clouds with that darker blue-gray that I created a little bit earlier. We really want those shadows to be visible. We're going to blend them in a little bit later, but for now we just want to define where we want them to be. Of course, we'll also add the white highlights on the top of the clouds to contrast those shadows. That cat you see walking around and occasionally getting in frame is my cat Calliope. She's about a year and a half old now. She's a very sweet girl. We found her on the side of the road with a broken leg and we brought her home and took care of her, and she's been mine ever since. She still limps a little bit on that one leg and we're not actually sure if she can feel it or not, but she seems to get around just fine on her own. Here we're just adding a little bit more highlight to those clouds and a few more dry brush clouds. We really want to see those layers and the overlaps in those clouds. Now we're gonna wait for about 24 hours. I waited until the next day for those clouds and that sky to make sure it was fully dry before I tried to paint on it again. This is acrylic paint, so I would not actually have to wait that long, but I chose to because I had other things I also needed to do that day. I'm gonna start painting my mountains now, and the colors I'll be using for that are titanium white, Mars black, light blue violet, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and yellow oxide. I always like to get my colors that I plan on using mixed before I start actually painting. This can sometimes cause some issues later because some of the colors will dry up and we'll have to remix them, but that's not too much of an issue. Alright, now I'm going to start with my baseline here of where I want the bottom of my mountain. Now remember, I am going to be covering up some of those clouds and that sky, but I want enough room in the foreground to have a lake and those flowers. Here I'm deciding what shape I want my mountains to be. I like to look at a lot of reference pictures to determine what shape the subject of my paintings really are and how the shadows look on them before I begin painting. It helps me get a better idea of what I want to do and what kind of layers I want to create in that painting. Now right now I'm really just getting down the base coat of that mountain, and I'm going to be adding a lot more detail later. And always remember that you want to have the direction of your light defined in your head before you start painting. We want to, even if, since we're, not in kindergarten, we don't put our little corner suns in our paintings, but we want to know what direction our light is coming from. From the clouds a little bit, you can see that light originally, before I even started the mountains, I had already defined that light was coming from the top left. I did more highlighting with the white on the upper left part of those clouds, so I will continue with that upper left lighting source for these mountains. I'm also not going to be putting a ton of detail in this. I'm just giving myself a reference so I know where I want those valleys and those peaks to be, because later in time I'm going to be putting foliage on these mountains. So it's not super important that I get all of this, all the detail down, but for now, it's just to help guide me in the future. Now, if we make a few mistakes and get some of our mountain paint up into that sky area where we don't necessarily want it, we can always go back later and paint some of those sky areas. It's not very difficult to get color matching done once you've had some experience with it. So any sort of mistakes that we make or splotches that we put outside of the lines of those mountains, we will fix in the future. And always remember, one of the biggest things my art teachers always taught me was that you want definition and contrast in your paintings. We don't want everything to be within a few shades of each other. We really want those stark contrasts like we see in real life. It really makes your paintings pop and makes them more enjoyable to look at. Now here I'm going to be doing what I like to call whitewashing. This is when you add a tiny amount of white paint, or paint of any color really, to a lot of water. And then you just get a little bit of that colored water on your brush, and you paint over those areas. This helps evenly light those areas. And in this case, with the mountains, it adds a little bit more depth for the future of the painting. Of course, air is not always clear, and the colors of that mountain should be a little bit muted when they're farther away. Here I'm just using a paper towel to dab out that extra water, and it leaves the pigment behind. That will do it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and remember to like the video if you liked it, and to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.